Okay, so now we move to our third principle of focus, which is, it's called face forward. And it says, face forward and then go to number one, meaning always, always face forward. Toward what? Toward this vision that you're developing. So every action you choose should be aligned, should be consistent with that vision, those values that you're developing. Face forward is extremely important because a lot of people try to steer us away from our vision. And when this happens, they can send their approval, their disapproval. We'll talk more about approval a little bit later. They make comments, they can disparage us, say mean things, and we can get distracted from our vision and then our emotions take over, like an emotional hijack, as Daniel Goleman talks about in his emotional intelligence book. And before we know it, we're no longer acting the way that we envisioned we would like to act. And that can also affect our careers in very adverse ways. There's I think Churchill once said, a small leak can sink a great ship. So it could be that you're doing very well in your career, or you're at an interview and someone says something you don't like, you make a little snide comment and you're out. That's how things tend to operate. So it's very important that we have sort of a mechanism for self-control. And I think this can help in that respect. So instead of facing toward all these other sort of pulls on your time, remember to always face forward toward your vision and your goals. There's a Chinese proverb, which is, "He who angers me controls me." Right? So every time that somebody stimulates a negative emotion in you, whether it's anger or envy or fear or jealousy or insecurity, and they cause you to act, or they don't cause anything. They stimulate that emotion and you choose how you want to act. It's like Emerson once said, the ancestor of every action is a thought. So the question is, what is preceding your actions? Is it your own thoughts, your own ideas, or is it the thought or action of someone else that's then controlling you? So taking a look at this, we can choose to be either reactive or proactive. Being reactive is when the stimulus automatically elicits a reaction. Well, the other option is that in between the stimulus and the response is a process. And that process we're going to be talking about quite a bit, which is the process you choose, that you select, that's consistent with your vision of how you want to approach your career and your life. So this actually is a very, very serious issue, because a lot of research shows that we have a lot of difficulty aligning our actions with our vision or values. For example, this is one of my favorite experiments. This was an experiment done with Princeton theology students. And it was a very clever experiment by Darley and Batson back in the 70s. What they did was they had these Princeton theology students that were going to give a talk about the Good Samaritan. Now, you may have heard the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? So this is about someone who is on his way to church, and on the way he sees an ailing man on the street, a sick man, asking for help. Well, instead of going to church, he decides to help this person in need. So eventually he speaks to God about it later, and he says, "I'm sorry I didn't go to church." And God says, "Well, that was your church." Right? So the Good Samaritan, that was the idea, that in Christianity, the Good Samaritan is there to help others. So imagine you're a Princeton theology student and you are on your way from one building to another to give a talk about the Good Samaritan. So what the researchers did was they actually placed a sick man in the street on the way from the building where the students were told to go give the talk to where they had to actually go give the talk. Well, can you believe about half of the students helped this ailing man, but the other half did not. So half of them, their actions were not aligned with their values, if we believe their values are that we should really be helping our fellow man and woman. So what the researchers did, which was very interesting, is they placed 3 conditions on the participants, on these students. The first one was they said, you need to go over and give this talk, but you don't have to rush. Just make sure you get over there, and then you can start. So this was a condition of low hurry. Well, the students that weren't in much of a hurry, about 63% actually helped the ailing man. Then they also created the condition where they said, you better get over there to the building to give your talk. They're waiting for you. The students that were in the high hurry condition, only 10% stopped to help the man on the street asking for help. So that means 90% did not. 90% basically said, okay, let's just punt those values because I need to go give my talk, right? And so this has been called value behavior correspondence, or research by Odgson. It was also called initially attitude behavior consistency. Same thing, the idea that your values or your vision and your actions or behavior, are they consistent or are they inconsistent? Would you believe a lot of these students even stepped over the ailing man to get to the building? I mean, and he was coughing and asking for help, and they weren't willing to help. So imagine if these are Princeton theology students, and 90% of them in a hurry are not willing to help an ailing man on the street when they're going to give a talk about helping an ailing man. What is the situation for us? So now that we have so many demands on our time, I think high hurry condition is the new norm. We all have we have so many emails, SMSs, WhatsApp to respond to, so many classes, so many pulls on our time. Those of you that are juggling your career, studying here, and then also you may have children, you may have parents that need your help. We have so many demands on our time. We are, almost all of us, in the high hurry condition, which means the norm is that 90% of us are not going to honor these values that we create when we develop our vision. We're just going to punt it and say, let's just leave that. I've got other things to do, and we forget about it. So if that's the situation, how are we going to focus? And that's why I think this is particularly important, because that means that each of us, you right here, right now, can think about what mechanisms can you put into place in your life so you will achieve this value behavior correspondence, so that your actions will be aligned with your vision, with your values.